Israel and Georgia. Mrs. Hada's Esther Neymans, their guests, their colleagues and students. Good morning. I'm very pleased to welcome you on behalf of Ilia State University. Thank you very much for joining us today and for making this meeting with our students and professors possible. It's a great pleasure for us to host you today at our university. So before I give the floor to our dear guests, I would like to thank the State of Israel, our long-term partner, for intensive cooperation, especially in our post-Soviet development, including higher education. We have very good connections with several universities from Israel, like Haifa University, the Institute of Child Development. Right now we are preparing a double degree MA program together with Hebrew and European universities. And you know that the history of our connections are very old and very intensive. More than 2,000 Hebrew inscriptions and manuscripts are discovered and preserved in Georgia. The oldest one is dated to the 2nd century BC and preserved in Tzreta. And the oldest, very famous illustrated Hebrew manuscript, the so-called Lailashi Bible, is extremely important, and vice versa. The oldest Georgian manuscripts and inscriptions are discovered in Jerusalem, nearby to Jerusalem, in Bethlehem. The oldest one is the Bethlehem manuscript from the 5th century, and I have here this book. This is one of the important Georgian manuscripts, so-called typical of Georgian manuscript in Jerusalem. And it was published last year here at Ilia State University. We are very young, one of the youngest state university in Georgia, established in 2006 through the merging of several post-Soviet pedagogical universities and research institutes, and these universities based on very important core values and principles such as equality, human rights, equal possibilities, diversity, free academic freedom, academic integrity, and social responsibility. And I hope that we will continue this very intensive history in the best way. I will not take up any more of your time, and please, the floor is yours.
So, first of all, thank you very, very much, Professor, Director, and thank you for this very warm welcoming, and thank you. It's very nice to meet all of you, and thank you very much for coming here today. And I will say that it's always a pleasure to see also so many women, female students here. I agree. I mean, before even going into the topic of Israel and everything, I'm very happy to be at Ilia University this morning. I think that the university is named after, to my little humble knowledge about Georgian history, and I hope that I'm not, but this statement of Georgia, the one that up until today is very much influencing the direction and the values of the Georgian modern state. And this is, how would I say it? I mean, it might be a heavy burden to carry, but also a very proud heritage to carry, I think, on the shoulder, and very relevant. And also, you mentioned briefly, your 3 following principles about the 3 freedoms, and this is also very inspirable and very honorable, and I'm very happy to be here this morning and to meet with the students and some of the faculty members of Ilia University. We gave this conversation a very wide title, but the idea from my side at least is to talk about whatever interests you. So I will start with maybe a little bit about Israel and Georgia, Israel in a brief, a bit about the Middle East maybe, but then I will be more than happy to open it to a question and to encourage all of you to ask me whatever, because really it's I would like it to be a conversation, and I want to know what interests you, so please don't be shy. I will start maybe by introducing myself. So my name is Hadas Meicad, and I started my position here as an ambassador in August. I came here with my little daughter, my young daughter, which is a big fond of Georgian food by now. And I have to say that I've been with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for 16 years. Before that, I served at the Israeli Air Force for several years. I'm coming from my background is computer science and mathematics, and somehow I ended up in the world of diplomacy and international relations, which I like very much. I find it to be very fascinating, although sometimes, you know, it's, I assume that the majority of you are studying international relations, so I will say that it's fascinating. Usually not a dull moment, but every now and then I do miss the concrete bottom lines of mathematics. Sometimes you wish that, that you will get one result and not many options. But I will say that briefly maybe about Israel, then Israel and Georgia, and then maybe a little bit about recent trends in the Middle East, and then I will open up for your question, what would you like? So just, you know, to set the record, maybe to start with a bit facts, it's not going to be a lecture, but Israel is 1/3 the size of Georgia by land, pretty much, and 3 times by population. I mean, we are now around 9 million people, 80% are Jewish, 20% are Israelis that either from either ethnicities or different religions, Muslims, Christians, Druze, a bit Cherkessis, etc., etc. Basically, Israel is the homeland of the Jewish nation, which means that for the Jewish people, there is only one state that it is declared as the homeland of the Jewish nation, but naturally not all the Jews of the world are residing in Israel. In Israel, we have today around 7 million Jews, and there are in total 14 million Jews around the world, and we are always laughing that, I mean, there are 2 billion Christians, 1.5 billion Muslims, and we are 14 millions, and sometimes we are making a lot of noise. Israel was established in 1948, and this coming April, we're going to celebrate 75 years to the independence of Israel. And for us, I mean, it's been 75 years, not for me personally. I joined it a little bit later, but I will say that for us, Israel is a miracle. I mean, the fact that we have a state for the Jewish people, considering the history that the Jewish nation went through, and the fact that we managed to have a strong and prosperous state, despite the fact that the beginning was not so easy, and also the present is not always that easy, but I mean, in 48, 600,000 Jews were living in the state of Israel, in the land of Israel when it was established. I mean, a lot of them came from Europe after the Holocaust, after the Second World War, and after losing and living through horrors that are unimaginable and losing everything behind. And this was our starting point. And as you know, at the beginning, we were very unwelcome in the region, into the neighborhoods, and basically Israel had no relation, none of our surrounding countries or the Arab countries in the Middle East were willing to accept our presence and the return of the Jewish people back to our homeland, which will just say that, I mean, if you are looking through the history perspective, and I think that this is something that is always, I think that it's in common to Georgia and to Israel, this fascination with history, and it has to go, I think, with the old nations that have a lot of respect to their history, and we are very much like the fact that we do have old manuscript that tells us our story and our history that can be traced back to many, many hundreds or even thousands, more than 1,000 centuries ago. But going back to the state of Israel, so just to say that, I mean, we started 600,000, today we are 9 million, despite the fact that we received the land, which we're always joking, there is a very famous joke, a song in Hebrew, that the land of Israel is blessed with honey and milk. And for many years it was great honey and milk, but what about some gas and oil, and this would... might come a little bit more handy for us. So we manage despite, I mean, today we also discovered gas. A few years ago, we discovered some gas fields in the Mediterranean, but we started with a land that is full with milk and honey, but not being accepted by any of our neighbors and small population. And we ended up being one of the strongest country economically and socio-economically. And this, I think, has to do with the fact that at the end of the day, when you don't have natural resource, you have the human resource, and this is where we invested our energy and time. And I was joking, but you know, in the Jewish psychic education is the most important thing. Jewish mother, if your son is not a lawyer or a doctor, you're considered to be a great disappointment. Today, I think that most Jewish mothers maybe want their sons to be, or daughters, of course, startupists, maybe. It's coming with competition with lawyer, but at the end of the day, the idea was to invest in the human resource and to develop, and what we have developed in Israel over the last 75 years is an economy of knowledge. I mean, I would also say that today we are referring, when we are looking at what we have to offer to the world and what we are sharing with the world, Israel is a nation of problem solving. I mean, we don't always have the patience to do the long-term treatment or to escort, but what Israel is good at is give us a problem of desertification. Or other climate aspect, give us a shortage in water, which was something that Israel faced in the 90s. I mean, in the 90s we had a shortage. I mean, Georgia is blessed with water. In Israel, the situation was completely the opposite. And in the 90s, we realized that, I mean, if the whole world is now talking about this aspect of climate change, of the shortage of water, so we managed to deal with it in the 90s and to solve it by desalination, by water treatment. I mean, I'm talking about water for a minute just because yesterday was also the International Water Day. It's hard to keep track because every day there is like 3 international days of something, but yesterday it was water. and for us, water is a big deal because it's a very good demonstration of something that was an immediate concern, something that affected our livelihood and our well-being and concerned us about the future, and we ended up finding the technological and the scientific solution, whether it's desalination, whether it's the fact that 90% of the water in Israel are being treated and reused for the industries or for agriculture, etc., etc. The IT industry that has been booming, I think, since the late 90s up until today, despite everything that is happening globally. And these are all things that has to do with investing in the human resource. Few words about Georgia and Israel. So last year we celebrated 30 years for a diplomatic relation between the modern state, but we are talking about 2,600 years between the nations. And I will say that I'm not sure that there are documents that goes all the way back to 2,600, but I think we can all agree that even if it's not 2,600 and 2,400, 2,000, it's still quite impressive, and we can say that 2,600 is documented?
Yes, it's documented in the Judaic archaeology from Flavius Josephus. It is the first, yes.
You see, you're the first person that can tell me how to find it.
He tell us about it.
Josephus Flavius is already talking about Georgia and... So now you're sending me to relook at Josephus Flavius. No, but I'm because... the book was translated on the 12th century to Georgian. Okay. In the 12th century already. Okay, no, but the indication for the 2,600, this is the first time that it's good to come to universities, you see, to learn about it. And as an ambassador here, I have to say that this is it's a great privilege for me. I mean, the fact that there is here this very special, very unique relation, that we have the ancient layer of this 2,600 years of relation between, of relation between very two old nations, the Georgian nation and the Jewish nation, and also a lot of similarities, I think, when it's come to going through tough period with the fact, I'm always saying that I think that when it comes to resilient, both the Georgian and the Jews can do excellent center together to other nations about resilience, considering what we have endured through our history. And then also this very strong political relation between the modern state of Israel and the modern state of Georgia. And since new independence of Georgia. We were the fourth embassy to be opened here. I mean, Israel was among the first to recognize Georgia. We were the fourth embassy to be opened here, and for the last 30 years, we have been doing our best in trying to assist our friendly friend Georgia in developing the economy, developing the education, and supporting Georgia also through difficult times, 2008 and more. If I have to look at the three pillars of our relation, I mean, of the Georgian-Israeli relation, I will say that first is it's a people-to-people. And the people-to-people also has, going back also to the Jewish-Georgian relation, the Jewish community that has been living as part of the Georgian society, which is not the case in many other countries. We all know this is very unique, and the fact that this community was Georgian, but also Zionist, and led to the first wave of Aliyah, of immigration to Israel in the 70s, I mean, when it was Soviet time and it was this role of the Jewish community and how it's being perceived here in Georgia and the respect, I think that this is one element. That, I mean, the fact that I keep on hearing from many of my Georgian new friends here that has nothing to do with Judaism, how important it is for them synagogues or the heritage, or this is, it's hard for me to express in word how heartwarming it is as an Israeli, as a Jew, to live in a country that has so much respect to not just my religion, but to my heritage. And this is a very unique bond. And then people, for us, it's the tourism, for example, that has been booming. Today there is more than 200,000 Israelis who are coming to visit Georgia every year. And when I'm looking at the Geostat, who are the top countries in incoming tourism to Georgia, so naturally it will be Russia and Turkey and Azerbaijan and Armenia, I mean, and Ukraine, I mean, the surrounding country. Ukraine, maybe at the moment there isn't much tourism. It's a different, but Israel, we are not a neighboring country. I mean, it's not, when Israelis are coming here, the majority of them are coming for pure tourism. For better or worse, the common language now in Gudauri is Hebrew. I don't know if it's, I don't know how you feel about it, but I will say that at the moment there are a few hotels that you can only order in Hebrew in Gudauri. But why is it important? Of course, it's important economically, and of course, it's contributing to the economy of Georgia, which is very much based on tourism. But for me, it also contributes a lot to the fact that so many Israelis, has been visiting Georgia. When I got the appointment and, I started going around, meeting people and telling them, yes, I'm going to be the ambassador to Georgia. So every second Israeli is telling me, oh, I just been, or I'm planning to go. And it's good because once you've been to a country, once you actually, at the end of the day, we diplomats, we can talk, and I can sit here and explain to you many things about Israel, but there is nothing like visiting the country. And once people are coming and meeting and seeing in their own eyes, I mean, the state of Georgia, how does it look? This mixture between a bit oriental, mostly Western, the history in Tbilisi, the landscape, which is beautiful. Also the people, the nature, the hospitality, the food. I mean, all the brands that you know better than I am, that Georgia is very much famous for. It gives me, it allows me as an ambassador then to also find people much more open and welcoming to different kind of collaboration, academic, scientific, because Georgia is a familiar country to Israelis and very much liked by Israelis. So the people also include obviously a lot of cultural activity that for many years the embassy has been investing in bringing here Israeli culture. We just had in the last 2 months, we had two Israeli plays translated to Georgian, modern plays, not about Judaism, not about Holocaust, but modern humor. If you have the chance, Days of Atonement by the Royal District Theatre, and Oh My God, which is about God going to see a shrink because he's suffering from depression. And this is at the Marginashvili Theatre, but if you have the chance, but generally speaking, a lot of cultural activity. Moving to the second layer, economic relations. And economic relations, so I talked about tourism, which is, of course, one aspect to it. Another one is a lot of investment by Israelis in Georgia, and it's growing nowadays, and I will get to it because I think that what is happening now in Georgia, not the aftermath, because we are still in it, but the war in Ukraine and how it affects Georgia geostrategic position that was always very good, but now I think that it's the focus is even more. It's even more in the focus and the center, the potential when we are talking about the corridors, when we are talking about Georgia as a hub of connectivity or energy. So this is, and of course, the macro data of what's happening here economically. I mean, the very impressive growth rate. All of this is the average Israeli investor is not missing all this data, and we see rising interest by Israeli businessmen and women to come here and to invest or to develop, and this is of course very, very good. And Mashav is our foreign aid agency. Like USAID, but much smaller. Ben Mashav has been working here for 30 years, and there are thousands of people in Georgia that went through training in Israel, in agriculture, in education, in health, in gender, in resilience, in name it. And some of them went to Israel for a week or two. Some of them received the training here in Georgia. And for us, this is our contribution to economic development, to share the knowledge that we have in education, by the way, whether it's vocational or academic. But this is, at the end of the day, our belief that what we manage to discover, to develop, to learn, we, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the government of Israel, this is what we do. We share the knowledge with our fellow countries because it's ideology together with diplomacy. And so I talked about the economics, and of course, bilateral relation. And bilateral relation, here I will say very briefly, that regardless of the government in Georgia and regardless who is the government in Israel, for the last 30 years we have a very strong, solid bilateral relation. Where do you see it? We see it in the international arena, at the UN, whether it's New York, whether it's Geneva. We see the mutual support, the constant attempt of Israel to support what's important to Georgia and vice versa. Not 100%, because each country also have its own interest, but we see it in a lot of mutual visits. And generally speaking, I mean, the fact that when there is a need, there is an open line to discuss and to see what can be done in a very, very intimate and warmly way. So this is a little bit about the relation. I want to say a few words about the Middle East, and then I want to open it to question. What I want to say about the Middle East. So I talked about how Israel, when we were established, we were not accepted by our neighbors, and then throughout the years, we had several wars. 1979, Israel is signing the peace agreement with Egypt. Major development. Egypt, it used to be one of our biggest enemies. The 73 war, Egypt was a huge enemy of Israel. We managed to sign the peace agreement. And then in 94, we are signing a peace agreement with Jordan. Egypt is, as you know, to our west-south. Jordan is sitting at the east border of Israel. And it's all very good and very important. By the way, the Palestinian I will touch in a minute. I'm not ignoring this issue, but I'm saying this was very, very strong and important. But the peace agreement with Jordan and Egypt were characterized by the fact that they were a bit quiet on the Egyptians and the Jordanian side. I mean, we still have a lot of cooperation in the field of security, but the average Egyptian or the average Jordanian are not necessarily knows about it or a big fan about it. It didn't spill into the public sphere, into the public opinion. And 2.5 years ago, in 2020, we signed the agreements with the Abraham Accords, the peace agreements with the United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, and we renewed our diplomatic relation with Morocco. And this agreement, the Abraham Accords, the effect that they had and still having, this is a change of paradigm in the Middle East. Because what we've been having with the Emirates and with Bahrain is a boost of agreements between the country that are all about civilian cooperation, defending investment, double taxation. I mean, a lot of financial agreement that basically allow people to do business and to visit the countries as much as possible. And I'm saying it because here we are seeing this change in attitude, that you are signing an agreement with Israel and you're doing everything to make it public. And you don't care about, I mean, and yes, there are still those who object, obviously Iran, we'll talk about it, but the fact that Israel is part of the Middle East and we're not going anywhere. And the Abraham Accord had a positive spillover effect over our relation with Jordan and Egypt, which were not the only one to have relation with Israel. So now it's no longer something to keep only on closed rooms, but it can be celebrated, and we can have a growing public and civilian cooperation. And what we are seeing is more and more regional architectures. By that I mean different kind of platforms or organizations. Some are ad hoc, some are more permanent, that will allow us to work together in the Middle East, Israel and its neighboring country. For example, we have the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, which is a forum for countries who are either producing or transit countries for gas. Egypt was the one to fund it. Israel is a founding member, together with Jordan, with the Palestinian, as well as Cyprus and Greece and France. But we have this regional body that talks about energy policy, and we all know now how important energy policies are, and what is the role that energy is playing in diplomacy, in politics, in stability. We have the forum, the Negev Forum. Negev is the name of the desert in Israel. The Negev Forum is a mechanism of United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, Egypt, Israel, and the United States that basically translate into 6 working groups in the field of tourism, health, education, security, tolerance, religious tolerance, and I'm forgetting one now, that works on increasing the prosperity and the well-being of the citizens in the Middle East in order for us to have a better future as a whole. I mean, I think that there is a growing understanding that we all need to work together, that whether it's water, climate change, energy, it doesn't stop where the border is being drawn on the map. But we are able now, for the last 3 years, to start fulfilling the potential of us, Israel, being able to share what we have done, what we are doing, not just with our friends in Georgia or in Europe or in other places, but with our neighboring countries in the Middle East. And for us, this is a major development. And I will say, I wouldn't be an Israeli diplomat if I will not say the word Iran. So I will say that, unfortunately, when we are looking at the Middle East, still the number one country, state that is working to destabilize and to undermine and to work against the world order is Iran. And it's whether we are looking at what has been happening there domestically, the oppression of the different demonstrations, the hijab demonstration, and how and the measures that are being taken against their own citizens. And now there is this whole question about the poisoning of many young students, female students in high schools, in many locations in Iran. And there are different assumptions about who is behind it, and the reason why it was only female girls that probably being connected to the hijab revolution, not revolution, unfortunately, that are now suffering from this poisoning. It looks like a revenge, but we don't have the answers, together with the fact that the Iranians are still advancing their nuclear program, military nuclear program, in a very blunt way. Recently, we have seen them raising the level of enrichment. I'm not going into all the technical details, but I will say that, unfortunately, today, if the Iranians take a decision, their ability to have enough what we call fissile material, which is a material, the highly enriched uranium, which you need in order to have the bomb, it's a matter of weeks, which is not where we'd like them to be. Not because we just don't want them to have it, but because once a country has a nuclear ability, a military nuclear ability, the case is North Korea, this is a model, it becomes immune to political steps, because it's very difficult to mess with a country that has a nuclear. I mean, the best case is North Korea. Look at North Korea. The guy can do almost everything he wants, so yes, he will be condemned, etc., but at the end of the day, you can hardly touch a country that has this umbrella, and this is what the Iranians are aspiring to have. And if they are already now the main source of funding terror organization all over the world and militias, as well as giving now the Russian different UAVs that are being used, of course, in Ukraine. I mean, this is the latest development. Just imagine what will happen, and oppressing the people, Imagine what will happen once they will be untouchable. So this is still for us the #1 challenge when we are looking at the Middle East and when we are looking about future stability and security. So this was my introduction. And now I will be more than happy to to hear from you what interests you and to take it, that you will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this fascinating talk, and I hope.
Hello, my name is Anna. I'm a PhD student of Hebrew Social Linguistics here at Ilia State University. My question is about exchange programs, because when I started studying Hebrew, at first it was in Tbilisi State University, it was a common fact that only 2 or 3 students per year choose Hebrew as their major profession. But in case of Turkish or Iranian or Arabic countries, there are many kind of motivational programs for the students which help them to make decision. For instance, at the end of semester, they know that they will go to the country, have some tour, they study there, and so on and so on. And I know that it really works because number of students in these programs are much more higher always than in Israeli or Hebrew studies. That's why I wanted to know if the embassy plans to have some kind of programs which will help students to make decisions in favor of Hebrew and Judaic studies, which have a very long history in Georgia. Thank you.
So we have at the moment, I didn't say, here with me is Leah Buchman, who is my political consultant at the embassy, and also celebrating her birthday today. But don't say that I... But I'm pointing at Leah because together we are working in the field of education. I don't have incentive like the one that you're mentioning. We do have every year 2 places, 3 places of depends of exchange. Of yes, we are giving the opportunity to students, to Georgian students, to go to do either an ulpan, like and you were doing it, or an intensive like months or 2 months of only studying Hebrew, or to go for a full academic year to study in Israel. We don't have what, and I will say that at the end of the day, there is a global trend that maybe students also we see it in Israel, humanities versus science, we know. And this is something bigger than just Hebrew studies. And second, I would like to say that I believe that, also I'm being honest here, that Ivrit, Hebrew, is a very ancient and a very fascinating, and if you have any interest in the Bible, for sure, or old manuscript, but it's being spoken by, if we are talking about, I can understand if somebody is doing the calculation vis-a-vis Spanish versus Hebrew, the numbers kind of speaks for themselves about, but I will say that at the end of the day, I would like to hope that what will continue to attract people to the Hebrew studies or to the Israel studies or Judaism is this mixture about fascination about Israel and what Israel has to offer modern Israel. Yes, the heritage, the history, which is interesting, but also to open for yourselves the opportunity to have more engagement with Israel and to gain from it in IT, education, etc., etc. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, I'm Nata. First of all, I want to thank you for your time. It's a real pleasure and honor to meet you in person. And I have a question about success. What do you think for you is a key to success?
It's a difficult one. Success in work, success in private life, there is many. I will try. This year, taking me here, I need to think as I'm talking what is, but it's a great question and thank you for this. I think that the key to success, there is an obvious thing. First, you need to want to succeed. You need to be motivated. You need to aspire. You need to know. I always said that it's not like that I need to know where I want to go, but I also need to acknowledge the fact that I might change my opinion several times, and it's okay. Often when I meet people at your age, 20s, and they're thinking about what to study, I'm saying, choose something, start. Maybe after the first year, you will say, okay, I don't want to be a psychologist. I want to be, I don't know what, a doctor, or I want to be a historian. But start with, but have an idea. You can always change as fixed, but try to have a target that you are aspiring. It can be a short term, it can be a long term, but try to aim to something, to be motivated to achieve something. The second is, I think that to be willing to learn in all kind of levels, not just academic studies, but I've been here for 7 months. I think that I'm constantly trying to learn not just about Georgia and what do I need to do, but also I'm a new ambassador. I mean, I've been diplomat for many years, but this is my first ambassadorial posting. Before that, you know, foreign service is kind of like the military. You go up the rank and the positions. And it's about learning my job and learning, I mean, listening from other people. What do they think that I should do? How do they think? I mean, to be open to learning from, not just in the traditional way, but all kind of way in order to do the fine-tuning all the time. So I said motivation, I said knowing where to go, I said learning. And learning, it goes together with people. I think that at the end of the day, the key to success, it's very hard to succeed on your own. I mean, I think that when you are looking at all the successful people, usually it's a teamwork. I mean, you can be the one leading the team, you can be the one with the idea, you can be many things, but nobody can do it all by himself. And it doesn't matter whether it's your supporting family or your fellow friends, or. But this is so. This is from the top of my hand what I think that what I think it takes to succeed. Thank you for this question.
Hello. Thank you very much, Ms. Ambassador, for the great speech. I'm so honored and pleased to meet with you personally. About me, I'm Mariam. I study international relations here at Ilia State University. So I'll try to combine 3 little questions for you. So I'm really interested in your standpoint. As here are a lot of girls and women who study international relations and diplomacy. When you were a child, when you were studying, when you were trying to go for a certain direction, were you having this vision in your head that you really wanted to be an ambassador someday in the future? And what is one of the most essential advices for especially the girls and women here who want to be a diplomat someday in the future? And about the partnership, political and diplomatic partnership we have between Israel and Georgia, given our long history, so long of history of partnership between the 2 countries, even though we don't need officially a visa for short-term tourism purposes in Israel, even though this is the fact, it is still one of the hardest countries to enter. So could you please tell us if there are some plans, maybe planned down for the prospective plans in the future, so that you could facilitate maybe this entire process and make it more easier for us or for everyone else to enter. Thank you very much in advance.
Thank you very much, Nata, for your Mariam. Sorry for your question. Let me start with the second one, and then I will go to the first one. The second one is in every country there is this embedded tension between between the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that want the borders to be as open as possible and for everybody to get inside and to come and to try, and the Ministry of Interior, that is, or Homeland Security, depends, that is in charge of ensuring that everybody is coming and that the stay and the entrance are being done legally. And we also have it in Israel, this tension between the different interests, and I'm familiar with the fact that there are challenges in entering. Interesting that you are saying that you are one of the hardest one. I didn't know that this is how, but I know that there are challenges, and there is a constant conversation about what can be done. But I would also add that we do also have, unfortunately, a high number of illegal people who stayed illegally in Israel. And we have different programs. For example, we have a program with the Ministry of Health about allowing Georgian people to work legally in Israel as caretakers, because Georgians are working as caretakers in many places in the world. And it's, of course, by all means, I'm not encouraging anybody to leave his homeland, but I am saying if a person is looking for another means of income for certain years, so we want to do it. So we have the opportunity now to do it legally, and I'm hoping that people will jump on the opportunity instead of choosing the other way, which is very, very complicated. So this is my very, very frank answer, that we are constantly trying to improve and to fine-tune it, but I'm not thinking that I will have a magic solution because of this embedded tension. By the way, I mean, Israel is in the process, for example, we are hoping to get our visa cancelled with the United States. And a lot of it has to do with what is the refusal rate of Israelis who are now trying to apply for visa and are not receiving one. And it's not, it's quite, and the US and Israel, they are best friends. At the end of the day, when it's come to the Homeland Security of the Americans or the Ministry of Labor, those who are in charge, it's, there is no, I mean, they are looking into, so I'm saying that this issue does not reflect the friendship between the countries. I'm not ignoring it, and we are working on it, but it's coming from a different perspective, from the issue of Homeland Security or Ministry of Interior. The second question, so no, I didn't know that I would grow up to be an ambassador, because I started my career completely different. As I said, I studied computer science and mathematics. I did it while I was at the army, at the Israeli army. In my case, it was the Air Force. The Air Force trained me into becoming a software developer, and I was developing software for different operational capacities at the Air Force. And I was back then thinking that maybe to pursue a military career, maybe to become part of the very blooming IT industry in Israel. And I ended up, when I decided that I'm not going to pursue a military career, and by the way, part of the reason that I decided that I'm not going to continue at the Israeli Air Force is because there was a very clear ceiling glass. Because in order to become the commander of the Israeli Air Force, you had to be a pilot. And in my days, I mean, later it was changed, but it was changed at the same time that I was there, but it means that you have to be a man, because only men were allowed to be a combat pilot in Israel. This, by the way, changed thanks to a very brave lady named Alice Miller, that just said, but how come? And she appealed to the Supreme Court in Israel, and the Supreme Court said, yes, please let women also start the training. And at the beginning it wasn't accepted well, but nowadays it's a given that women are flying aircraft the same way as men, and it's not something that you need a special skills of gender related in order to be able to do it. But for me it was, I don't want to pursue a career in a place where I cannot be the number one. That by definition I know that I'm going to be blocked at some point just because this is how this organization is built. So I decided to leave, and then I was about to join one of the IT companies, and then the ministry came up with the ad of we are looking for new diplomats and come and join. And to be very honest, the reason that I applied at the beginning, it was also to buy some time, because I thought that like I didn't study international relations, what are the chances, and it was okay, it will give me some time to think what is it that I really want to do. And I ended up being accepted, and I'm very happy that I did. So I cannot say that this was my aim, but once I joined the ministry, so yes, I mean the idea is to, for me, and it goes also to the question about success, aim high. I mean, there is no reason not to aim high. I mean, unless, and just to be very clear, it doesn't have to be work-wise. I mean, you can definitely say, I'm aiming high in my hobbies. This is what gives me pleasure in life. I'm aiming high with my family. I mean, I'm not saying that there is only one, or whether it's my academic career, or there is not one formula fits all. Everybody needs to think how he will feel that it's trying to live to its full potential, and I think focus there. So once I joined the ministry, yes. And then you asked me about advisors. I think that first is to speak. I think that in many cases women tend to censor themselves, that in big meetings men are always talking, women will think 10 times before they will open their mouths, and when they will open their mouths, they will do it very, very quickly, because they don't want to waste everyone's time, while the men will feel that the room was born to listen to them. I'm sorry for the men in the audience, not all of you, not God forbid, some of my best friends are men, no, I'm kidding, but I'm just saying that there are a few phenomena that as a woman I feel that we still need to change. So one is to speak out. I mean, your opinion is not less important than other people in the room, and maybe what I'm going to say will be not that smart. It happens, but okay, everybody, sometimes smarter, sometimes less, but speak. Don't be afraid, don't censor yourself, and also be part of the room. I mean, make sure that you are sitting at the table, that you are being included, that you are taking part. When we are looking at 1325, which is the United Nations Security Council resolution about women in peace and security, the idea is to have women included in peace and security processes. I mean, and this is another thing. Walk into all rooms, not just rooms that talks about soft issues, But I mean, women shouldn't be afraid to touch hardcore security, defense. My roles in the ministry for the last, before coming here for the last almost 10 years, I was the political consultant advisor at the UN mission the Israeli mission to the UN. And for 3 years, I was doing the Middle East and Iran, and before that, I was dealing with the Iranian nuclear program. And then I came back to another job that was very much about the pole mill aspect. And I think that sometimes there is this cautious about, I don't know enough, or maybe I don't have the combat experience to. First of all, security and defense is not only about combat experience. This is only one slim aspect of it. There is a lot to do about comprehensive defense that include other issues. And second, again, I mean, just because there is no reason to be the one to decide for ourselves. But then again, it's also important, I think, to you to help one another. I mean, to see that if somebody is a little bit more hesitant to share her opinion, to encourage her, to see that you are inviting others to the room. I mean, and again, it has to be based on merit. I'm not saying now that I'm preaching for let's just have women for the sake of women. It has to be, of course, based on capabilities. But this is, but not to block yourself. To think that like that equality, that we are all equal to participate, to express our opinion.
Thank you. My name is Nini, and thanks, Mr. Nino, for managing this meeting. I have a question for you. It's not a political question, it's about legal documents, because I'm a law student. As usual, legal documents that are created by Israeli people or made in Israeli should be accepted by notary bureau and then accepted by apostille. But for international recognition in Georgia, it should be checked and approved by our state government. And we have some agency for that. But they don't have ability to check the real apostille. So they are sending it to Embassy of Israeli, and Israeli is not responding. It responded once, really many years ago, and then it's not responding anymore. So it's really a problem for legal documents to be recognized in Georgia. Thank you.
I don't have an answer for you. What I can say is send me an email, explain to me, give me concrete details about what is it, not generally you are not responding, but what are the applications, the request that was sent to our consular department, I just need, because email that tell you are never replying, I need the case, I need to understand why, and we look into it and I will get back to you.
Okay,
I'm not familiar with this.
Shalom, I'm Nanika. I'm 18 years old. I study international relations here. First of all, I want to say thank you for the lecture. It was very interesting. We all know that Israel is a very strong and successful country, despite that it's in a permanent war. I have a question. What we lack to become as strong as the Israelis? What we lack to become as strong as the Israelis?
First of all, you're lucky that you are enjoying peaceful relation with all of your neighbors except one, an important one, but except one. I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that the Caucasus, which had a very bad reputation as a trouble area in the 90s, and the fact that now, when it goes directly to what I said about investment and about tourism, about 200,000 tourism, I mean, the fact that Georgia is a peaceful country, it's a stable country. It's a country that people are saying we want to visit and we want to. And despite the fact that you are living, that Armenia and Azerbaijan, I mean, every now and then, of course, 2020 we saw the war again in Karabakh. But I'm saying that the fact that Georgia is able to secure itself for 20 years, I don't know where to start the count, and it's also a political question, I believe. How do you count? But let's just say that for many, many, many years, Georgia has been a very peaceful country, and this is your strength, and this is why, I mean, I want to be more like you. I mean, I talked about it. My position now is much better than what it used to be several years ago, and I have peace agreement with, from my surrounding neighbor, with 2 out of them. But still I have Lebanon and Syria, which are enemy states to Israel, and an active one. I mean, Lebanon is being, unfortunately, dominated by a terror organization, Hezbollah, and we just had 2 weeks ago a very problematic terror attack that took place in Israel by some Lebanese Hezbollah militia fighter. So first I will say that, I mean, it's about the context, and good for Georgia that you don't have to live under this constant threat. And then I will say that, you know, it's not a one simple answer. What we have in Israel is a mandatory service. To tell you that I think that Georgia should have a mandatory service, I have no idea. It's up to Georgia to decide which and how and what. I also think that at the end of the day, military strength is very important, no doubt, but it's not all about military strength. It's about economic strength, which is, I mean, look at sometimes cases in the world where you see, without naming names, but you can see places where you have trouble and escalation, and big countries will come to the rescue immediately. And there are other places devastating. Look even at Yemen. That it's a heartbreaking story, and nobody cares much, and it has to do with what are the interests in Yemen. So it's not nice to say, but I'm saying all of this because I think that at the end of the day, what's been happening here and what is accelerating now, to my understanding, the development of Georgia as a hub, as a corridor, as, I mean, so okay, so the Azerbaijan gas has been going through Georgia for many years, but the discussion now, whether it's as a submarine cable to Europe or other project, that this is, I mean, when you're looking at the strengths, not just the military strength, but the whole comprehensive defense approach to strengths.
Thank you. I think Israel is one of the best countries in the world.
Thank you. I tend to agree with you, but thank you very much for saying so.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for your great speech. I don't have any question, but I have a comment to make. So my name is Salome, and my second name is Shlomit. So I am a Georgian Jew here. I'm a student, and I'm working now on my MA degree. So you touched the Georgian Jew topic, that Jews and Georgians have a really friendly relationship, and I'm a living example of that. And also I wanted to know that my mother tongue is Georgian language, and this university gave me an opportunity to learn Jewish language. So I am able to visit Israel and talk to Israelis in my one mother tongue, Israeli.
Thank you, תודה רבה.
תודה רבה. תודה לאוניברסיטה הזאת.
Thank you very much for sharing, Salome, Shlomit, and you know, Shlomit is from Shalom, which is for us. Shalom is peace, and Shlomit is like the female name. If for the men it will be Shalom, for the so Shlomit is a very strong name in Hebrew. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Taco.
No, you're right. I want to say, you know about Tamar? You know that Tamar is, but what is fascinating, I mean, Tamar and Nino and Salome, of course, what is fascinating about Tamar, every Israeli guest that I'm having, at some point he will come, he will meet some Georgian lady, and she will tell him, my name is Tamar, and he will be like, Tamar? It's the name of my daughter. and then I will tell them there are a lot of Tamar here, and they will, how come? Because for us, Tamar, in Israel, is not a biblical name, Tamar. Tamar is a very Israeli name. It's like considered to be a new name. It's based in Tamar is, I mean, there is Tamar in the Bible, of course, Amnon v'Tamar, but Tamar, most Tamar in Israel, I think it comes from the tree. I mean, there is the palm tree is Tamar, and it's a very like a modern Israeli name. And this is why for people when they're coming here like Tamar in Georgia, how now Queen Tamar, how did she, or King Tamar, sorry, how did she? I mean, it's an Iranian. I mean, how did she came up with the name Tamar? It's,
Hebrew names was the most popular names also in late antiquity. Yes, it was based on the Hebrew. Yes.
But sorry, please.
Hello, my name is Tamar.
Oh my God, so I should have even better. Yeah.
I'm a student from international relations, and as you mentioned, you have come a long way from captain of Air Force to ambassador. And I wonder, when was the most difficult period in your career, and how did you overcome it? Because I believe your experience would be a valuable lesson for me as a future diplomat.
I will say that, you know, you have setbacks in life. I mean, for example, at the ministry, we compete for position. And sometimes you compete and you lose. And at that moment in time, it will look like the whole world has been, you know, everything that I planned is now not going to happen. But then you realize that, I mean, I'm not very spiritual. So, but I'm saying that, you know, sometimes the door closed, the window open, it actually happens in life. So I think that you need to, that it's not about, failures happen to all of us. You know what? I want to connect it to another thing. When we are talking about the IT industry in Israel, about the startup nation and everything, one of the basic ingredients that allow us to become a startup nation, aside from investing in education and infrastructure, okay, all the governmental, but it's a mindset that it's okay to fail. Because when you are a serial entrepreneur, you're doomed to fail. I mean, all the big names that made exited, the change, you know, Elon Musk, but also other, they failed a lot. I mean, you're failing, and the idea is not to go home, to sit in a dark room, and to resign from the world, and also for the society not to look at you as a failure and never to give you a second chance. But the idea is understanding that if you are doing, you're also failing at some point. And so, yeah, I had my setbacks in my career, in my personal life, things that I wanted A, and it turned out to be B or C or other things. And I think that it's about, you know, coming back into the game. There is a quote, which I don't remember it, I need to Google it, but Roosevelt, about the man in the arena. A very nice quote about, that at the end of the day, it's about the man in the arena, the one who fight, the one who tried, that this is... let's see if I can find it really quickly. Otherwise, I will give up. The man in the arena. Let's see. At least in Hebrew, this is Theodore Roosevelt, and it's the quote which I like very much. And it's not the critic who counts. Okay, but I need a larger font. It's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumble, or where the door or of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strive valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do their deeds? Who knows great enthusiasm? Who knows great devotion? Who spends himself a worthy cause? On and on and on. I'm not going to read all of it, but I think I mean, at the end of the day, it's about coming back and starting again and understanding that failure is part of our life, part of our adult life, I will say.
Hello, I'm Georgi Guale. I'm professor of politics and international relations here at Ilia State University. Thank you very much for a wonderful talk and for your time and visit. In political science, there are kind of two competitive approaches when it comes to the issue of democracy and the security. So one of the approaches argues that democracy is kind of the precondition for peace, and we have this theory of democratic peace, which argues that two democratic states never go to war against each other. But there is another argument, which is quite solid one, which argues that the causation is working in reverse, that it's not about democracy producing peace, but that's peace which is kind of the producing democracy. So based on the experience of your country, because the experience of Israel was that it has this permanent problem of national security, but at the same time, you are the example of having really free and democratic society. So how could you manage to balance these two values? that might be very good.
No, it's an excellent question because this is, I mean, we talked before about the strength, this embedded tension between Homeland Security and tourism or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think that the whole question of democracy and security, it's an open question. I mean, nobody has an exact answer. Where do you need to put the line? But first, I think that. You know, you said democracy is a precondition for peace. I don't know. I mean, in our case, we are having peace agreement with countries that are not democratic. So I don't know, but I do think that from where we stand, democracy is a precondition for stability, for long-term stability and prosperity. I think that have yet to proven that there are other kind of regimes that prove themselves to be allowing for the conducive condition for prosperity and stability like democracy is. What you're saying, we have this, it's a discussion that is constantly taking place in Israel. I mean, how do you balance between the security needs and between the democratic values of the state of Israel? And the fact that this discussion is taking place, I think that this is the strength of our democracy. I mean, the fact that at the end of the day, and it takes place among parliament members when they are addressing different legislation between different government bodies, but also as a citizen. I, as a citizen, has the opportunity to apply directly to the Supreme Court in Israel. I mean, the Supreme Court in Israel is either discussing cases that were brought to him after, you know, going through the different levels of the courts, or I can apply, by the way, not only me, also for you to know, Palestinians can apply directly to the Supreme Court in Israel in different cases. It also has to do with rights. And the fact that I can apply directly and to have questions about personal freedom when there is a tension with security need, this, I think, is, I can have it because of the democracy. So for me, I think that being a strong democracy is a precondition to be a very secure and strong country, because in order for it to be sustainable and solid and also accepted by us as citizens, I mean, if I, as an Israeli, we are paying a heavy price. I mean, all of us are being served, which is a very good experience in many ways. It's developing the character. It's a stepping stone for many, many things in our future life. But people are also dying. People are dying in the service of the state of Israel. In April, when we are going to celebrate the 75-year Independence Day of Israel, in Israel, before Independence Day, we have Memorial Day. They come together. We first mourn our death, the people that gave their life for the state of Israel. For 24 hours, the country is shut down. Everybody go to the cemeteries, and it's a very, very sad day. And then we go directly to celebrating our independence, because the two are connected, because we couldn't have made it to our 75 years and to our independence if it wasn't for those who paid for it. But this has to do with the fact that we are willing to pay this price because we believe in the cause, and also because I live in a country that I have the opportunity to express my voice. When I don't like something, I have the tools and the means to talk about it, to maybe I will lose the discussion, I might lose the case, I'm not saying that, but this is why I think that democratic states at the end of the day are, in my eyes, always stronger also. And it goes also to the original question about military strength, and the fact that military strength is one aspect of it, but the strength of being a strong democratic country that allow pluralism of opinion, that allows the citizens to question everything and to doubt and to publish and to, this is, I think, that this unwritten contract between the state and its citizens that makes us stronger.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank you for your wonderful speech. I'm Nina, and I'm studying linguistics at Ilias State University.
You're studying what, sorry?
Linguistics.
English.
Yes, English. First of all, I want to ask you that you mentioned many kind of advices, and I would like to separate especially one of them, and I would like to know what would be your biggest advice for the women whose main desire and the biggest wish is to satisfy their needs, be successful, and reach their goals, and furthermore, what would be your second profession in today's view? Thank you. Second profession. Second profession in today's view.
Wait, the first one is to give you the best advice of how to be successful. You have to pay me a lot of money for this. I'm not sharing this. But what was the second question?
What would be your second profession in today's view?
I'm not. I don't understand the word proficient. Profession?
Yes, profession.
What would I do if I wasn't an ambassador?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, I don't have magic, I like, you know, how do you say it, like a silver bullet. I don't have. I think that what I said before, at the end of the day, it's about constantly tuning yourself. It's about setting a goal, saying if it suits you, we look, we examine, talking with people, you know, listen to yourself. It's all the... I don't think that there is anybody who will be able, I mean, at least I'm not familiar with anybody who will be able to tell you, but I also think that it has to do with, you know, you need to know what's good for you. Like how to balance between listening to other people, because no man is an island and you don't want to be, but also following what you think will be best for you. And as I said, being able to change if you think that you did something and you need to adjust. The second question is a good one. I have to say that sometimes what I miss about the fact that I left the world of mathematics and computer science to diplomacy is that there is something about the scientific, academical world that is very innovative. I think that I enjoy my job being ambassador, but I cannot say that governing an international relation are the most innovative profession. We would like to think that you're also doing innovative thing, but when I see, you know, scientists that just discovered the latest treatment to this kind of cancer, or people that are really moving the world forward in technology, in knowledge, and I will say that it's not necessarily just from the scientific disciplines, it can also come from the humanities. I mean, we're also seeing even the way our thinking has been evolved throughout the years because of humanities, because we understand moral and law in a much different, I mean, what the law has been through since Second World War. I mean, so there is something about being in the first line of investing or moving the world forward that sometimes I'm not sure that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the first in the front line of this, to be very honest.
Hello, my name is Alexandra. I'm not from Ilia State University. I've studied in many universities in Georgia and also in Italy. That's why I have many friends from around the world, and that's what my question will be about. I've argued and had conversations with my friends from Europe, from Asia, from Africa, from like every continent about which side they take in Israel-Arabic conflict. I'm not talking about one particular one because that's a never-ending war, and I personally am a Russian-born Jew. That's why I always take the Israeli side. But I'm trying always to be objective, and please, do you have an answer to my question? Why does the world take the Arabian side, and what is the main, I don't know, step to solve this problem? Because I think it's a problem. Thank you so much.
I don't think that the world is taking on the... I think that there has been... I will try to explain. First of all, there is a sense of numbers, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, let's start with the fact that there is no simple answer to it, and when we are having discussion about it, one of the things that we are facing is lack of knowledge. And let me, let me tell it in a different way. My ability to fully understand Abkhazia, South Ossetia here, the complex relation between Russia and Georgia is a work in progress, because I read about it, but then there are so many nuances that you have to live through and to understand, and the people, and this, in order to have a much better, delicate sense of what's been happening here. And I'm saying it because ever since coming here, I am trying to figure out, and my staff will know, I mean, that I have many questions about, wait, but why like this, why like that? And I'm saying it because it's also very much related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is a very famous or infamous conflict, but there is a ratio of people that speaks about it in a very determinative way, and the lack of knowledge about what does it take. And sometimes you will find out that even people that you're talking with, if you ask them the numbers, how big is Israel? Some of them think that we are a giant in the Arab countries. They don't even have the map in front of them to understand the situation of a very small country. Started as 1,600 people, 600,000 people at all. That 48 was immediately attacked by all its surrounding neighbors. Now to the numbers. The numbers start with the number of people. I mean, there are more Arab countries, Muslim countries. I served for 5 years at the UN. The UN, as you know, is one of the most challenging fields for an Israeli diplomats, and we have a lot of, every year we have more than 20 resolutions that are against Israel, that are specifically about Israel. There is 2 about Iran, 1 about Syria, I mean, and there are 20-something resolutions about Israel. And the reason that it happens year after year is because they have the numbers, is because the Palestinian is part of the Arab world, part of the Muslim world. The OIC, the non-aligned movement, is also very much still on that side. So let's start with the fact that when it comes to the number of the games, they have the automatic majority at the UN. So this is one. One second, I said, is the lack of knowledge. And third is in some of the countries, some of the Arab countries, and this is changing a lot thanks to the Abraham Accords and what I said, people are growing up with, there is a demonizing of what Israel is. I mean, it's not about, there is a conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict exists, and there is a room that it's important to discuss and to talk about it, and there is a room to criticize Israel, by the way. I will not sit here and say that everything that we have been doing or doing is perfect, because like every conflict, there are 2 sides of the conflict. It depends on the people, on the events. It's a very complicated one, but we have a large population around the world that is growing up with this demonizing that Israel is something that it's not. And why am I saying it? Because we have been saying since the Abraham Accord, since the fact that suddenly to have relation among the Arab countries, to have relation with Israel is not a secret, that we have people coming, that we have broadcasting TVs that is known, for example, for many years during the Ramadan, the most popular TV series, because, you know, in Ramadan, people watch more TV because they sit at home more because of the fasting. So the popular soap opera, always the villain was an Israeli Mossad agent. This was like the classic villain that is kidnapping kids and sending sharks to the Mossad sharks to the ocean and stuff like this. And think about it. I mean, if you are being constantly exposed to the fact that Israel stands for pure evil in the world, so this is how that Israel is, for no good reason, depriving the poor Palestinians from. So this is how you look at this conflict. So my answer to you will be, first of all, it's about knowledge. It's about the facts. It's about telling that, yes, this one is a complicated one. And I won't be able to tell you in 5 minutes how to solve it, but start by knowing the facts. Start by talking about proposals that have been given to the table time and time again, and have been declined. I mean, let's go back to the UN partition plan that actually gave the Arab world half of the land of Israel and the other half to the Jews, and was declined by the Arab state. They made the wrong gamble, and they attacked us because they thought that they would be able to eliminate us, and we won the war. So, I mean, let's go back to then, and then let's talk about the 90s and the Oslo Agreement, and what's happening now, and the fact that the Palestinian can appeal to the Israeli Supreme Court. And there are many, many facts and figures about this conflict that are yet to know. And the difference between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip that has been controlled by a terror organization, Hamas, since late 2000. And what does it mean about the right of the women there and LGBT community? And so, to your question, we don't necessarily have the BSPR all the time. In some places we can change it. In some places it goes much deeper to the lack of the desire to even understand and to get the straight answer. And in your conversation with your friend, I think it's always, when you have the knowledge on your side, you come in a very different step to the discussion about it. And by the way, I do hope that I will live to see the day that we'll find a solution. I mean, it's not something that, that we want to continue. It's definitely something that I think all the people in Israel wish to see. The day will come that we'll find the right formulation that will allow all of us to live quietly.
Thank you very much once again for your very fascinating lecture today. And you see the interest is very high, and we will invite you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Before going, thank you again, Professor Nino. Thank you all for listening and at your service. And really, it was my pleasure to meet you guys, the future generation of Georgia. Thank you.